All right, I get to continue with my spot illustration coloring. So I brought this old illustration into Photoshop so I could steal colors directly from it and also get a sense for where highlights should be. But then I started to replace those flat colors. So if we look at my monster design here, I have it set up in 3 layers, and you should do this. I have line work. That's a vector brought in from an EPS file that I vectorized in Illustrator. So it's perfectly clean, no matter what resolution. I create a large file, 13 by 19 inches, at 350 pixels per inch. So a high-res raster file. I bring the EPS in, drag and drop it so it's a smart layer on the top here, and I lock it. And then underneath that, on the very bottom, I fill a layer with just solid white. That's my background white layer. I lock that so I can't accidentally paint on it. And then on top of that, I put my flat colors. And because my illustration is so contained, I was just able to use the magic wand in the line work layer. Even though it's selected, I can use or locked rather. If I select that layer, and even though it's a smart layer, I can select with contiguous turned on an area within it and then move that to flat color and then use the paint bucket and fill it in. And if I want to change that color, I can do that easily enough. All right. So I'm going to go to something really light here. And this is my little trick. I like to show only web colors. And I also really like the default color palette they give you under swatches in Creative Cloud Adobe, because these are the standard old school printing colors that were used for most basic like comics printing and illustration printing in the past. All right, so once you have that, you want to make decisions for everything. So if I want something to be white, I actually want to fill it with white, because otherwise it's blank. So I have more flat color to fill. So for instance, what about the eyes? I'm going to hold down Shift and fill in these different shapes. Oops, want to be on the black line work layer. Hold down Shift. I want to fill in the talons. These should be bright, and I want to fill in this little rim of the helmet. So let's pick a color, or pick a swatch. And I think I want to go on the warm side, so maybe I'll do a peach. Let's just do that for now. So I go to my flat color layer, and fill them in. All right. Now, flat color, I can also have a different local color for the visor than for the back of the helmet, and I think I want to do that. So now, I don't need to go back to my line work anymore, because I have every flat color basically filled in. So I'm going to pick that and this. Hold down Shift to do both of them. And I'm going to change that color to something a little bit darker. Use the paint bucket. I can do the same thing with this little lip here. Fill that in. And lastly, each of these are in the line work, so I want to go back to the line work layer. The space behind, I want this to be quite dark, but not black. And I might even go for a deep blue. Fill that in. Now that's just where we get started. And then last choice, this little disc, I want to make that a lighter gray. And then I like that light gray enough, I might want to make the talons that. instead of that peach. Maybe the eyes that. And maybe the lip there. So now I have it fully flatted, all flat color. And it all looks pretty good, pretty smooth. And I can mess with my color choices in little ways, find ones I like more. Like maybe I want to go a little bit greenish blue in these areas. Yeah, just on the collar, a little bit greenish blue, and maybe in the face a little bit lighter. Not that light. Let's see. I like to stick to standard palettes first, and then do variations on them. Maybe something like that. Okay. So now, you see how I have white space in this flat colored example. So I've gotten rid of all my white space, and I might decide to put some highlights in, and those would be part of the flat color too. So that I will do with my lasso tool, and I'll decide where I want kind of white highlights. And maybe I want one right here. I'll just cut it out with the lasso, and I'll just hit. Actually, I won't do hit delete. I'll say edit, fill, white 100% in that zone. And maybe I want that, let's see where else. Maybe right on the lip here. Now, these do not need to be on your flat color layer. In fact, it'd be better if they weren't. But that is the result. They are still just giving you flat color. They're just whites. So instead of putting them on my flat color layer, I am going to make a new layer, and I'm going to lock my flat color layer. And I'm going to call this white highlights. Okay. And now all I'll do with this is I will take a lasso, and this is where I missed the blob brush in Illustrator. But I'm going to draw kind of smooth shapes, and I can edit them easily later, that are solid white. And I decide where I want those highlights to be. But they do need to go behind my line work. And they are behind my line work. This is still making it flat color, because white and black added into your local color, or put as a highlight or a shadow, it's not the same as doing variations on the color. You can use your arrow keys to kind of nudge your selections. And after this, I can get rid of my reference there, because I'll have enough. So I have to stay behind my line work, because I am actually painting in white. Otherwise, it would just show whatever the background is of the t-shirt I'm designing it for. So it's not quite as easy to make it as smooth as with the blob brush in Illustrator. And you could do these as part of your Illustrator file, EPS, if you wanted to. But then you wouldn't be able to modify the white as easily as by making it part of your coloring process here. Now I show this, even though this is still flat color, just to show you that good flat colors are important to strive for. It's not just an in-between step. It helps you kind of understand what the strengths are of your design. And what the challenges are going to be. And it starts to hint at what duotone can do. Now, just like you can do white highlights, now I'm going to lock that. Not throw it away, lock it. And now I'll make black shadows, or black full bleeds, where it's just filled in with solid black. Full bleed shadows. And if I want to make the helmet look more reflective, I'm going to do the same thing with that I did with the white, except I do solid black shapes. Kind of flesh it out. Edit fill. I like the edit fill because you can't mess up. Like that is solid black, 100% black, just like the white is 100% white. And we can use what we've used from, what we've learned from compositing to play with it because it's on its own layer. I can warp it, I can shape it, and in a way kind of smooth it out a little bit as long as it still stays underneath my line work. I think I want black shadows in each of these. Just a little hint of that blue coming through. I'm going to hold down Shift, do a bunch of them. I can fill it in all at once. You have to kind of know where your light is coming from. Not that I'm that much of a stickler for light logic in illustrations. It needs to look good first. But often the way to get it to look good is to have a sense at least of where your light's coming from. So mostly I have light coming down from the top and from the left, which is hitting this beak, but I have another little light hitting from the right, which is hitting that side. All right, so let's see what it looks like without those blacks. And then I need something here. Maybe a cast shadow under this. And then goes to a core shadow on the helmet there. Stays underneath the line. I need something in the indent here. It's all this little sloppy, so I can select it, transform it, try to get it where I want. And I can always erase away from it as well.